Sup, Wangers? How's it going? Welcome to season 3 of the Wing Magma podcast. We are taking things down a completely new avenue. I am going to be joined each and every week by my dear friend Tin and Welsh as we go through the music that we are currently listening to and creating an ongoing, ever expanding playlist for everybody to follow, as well as diving into some of our favorite and dear albums that are close to our hearts. What a wild ride it's going to be. Buckle up.
Buckle up, punks. And thanks, pot pickers, for tuning in.
Awesome. So let's start with what we have been listening to this week. So I'm going to start the playlist and I'm going to add tracks to it as we go.
As we go, fuck.
So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
All right. So I'm just going to open Spotify to start this. I am going to start with probably an unexpected track. So I found this track following The Rock on Instagram, following the WWE WrestleMania press event. There was an Instagram reel of The Rock and Roman Reigns walking off into the sunset together, and it was soundtracked by Rumble by Skrillex. And I just thought it was such a cool song. And I've been listening to it so much, and I've had my kids listening to it.
Okay.
And I thoroughly enjoy it. And it's my first track for the playlist, Rumble by Skrillex. Very, very interesting. It's got a lot of bass, and listen to it
how do you
very
top that?
loud. It's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
That's my first track. Tin, what's your track?
How many were you allowed?
I've probably got 3.
Okay, well, coincidentally, I have 3 as well. I'm going to keep on the subject of bass, if I may, as well. And I mean, I don't have nearly the same level of background kind of fun to offer into that, but late last year, Steve Lamacq was playing a band called Chalk from Belfast, and our friend Martin kind of made reference to them, and particularly a song called Static. And it's just brilliant. Like, it's just a really, really good song with like a really intense build, with really just simple cyclical kind of lines in it. But I reached out to them just kind of through Instagram and so on and asked, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. Why? What? Because I did this. I've got a
Yeah.
funky nose. It's
Okay.
fine.
But like I reached out to them, and they through Instagram, and they've like immediately kind of just responded and said, "Hey, it was produced by so and so, and if you want to get in touch, like, contact us." And they're just such nice guys about it. But I've seen they're kind of blowing up at the minute, so good on them. So my first they're kind of like idolsy, it's very kind of that's very kind of pro punk. It's great. So Static by Chalk is my first song, but really on the grounds that it's great and they were really sound.
Awesome. I have not. You may have shared Chalk,
Perhaps, yeah.
but I will listen. And
It's good. It would be well placed on a playlist.
Speaking of idols, have you been listening to their new album at all?
I have. Have you asked Alexa? So Alexa, what's Tank? I'll take this one from here, Alexa. This is Joe Talbot from Idols.
Oh, really?
It's doing it. Alexa, stop. It's quite fun, actually. No, my Lauren's my wife, by the way, and she's fucking obsessed with Joe Talbot. So yeah, we have been listening to quite a lot of Idols.
Awesome. So I've probably listened to the album twice, and I think with Idols albums, I wouldn't be able to tell you which my favorite is, Brutalism or Joy. I'm not sure. I like them both almost equally. Probably Brutalism is my favorite. I feel like they've been on a decline. I haven't enjoyed their subsequent 2 albums. This is their 5th, isn't it? Tank.
Yeah, 5th in like 5 years. It's too many.
But so I kind of went into Tank with low expectations.
Yeah.
But was pleasantly surprised. And I remember thinking there's a lot of layers and a lot of texture to the album, and it made me think of Radiohead in terms of how things are built and how the songs are kind of orchestrated. And then Martin told me that Nigel Godrich has produced this album, and I was just like, that kind of makes sense. I didn't know that he did that until Martin told me.
I didn't know until this moment.
Yeah, but that it kind of makes sense in terms of the layering, the textures, the depth of soundscapes within what they're doing. So I'm going to add Pop, Pop, Pop to the playlist.
That's not the one with the Chris Martin deep fake. That's the Grace, isn't it?
No, Grace is Grace. I'm not sure.
But the video's got a deep fake of Chris Martin singing it.
No, I've not seen that. Is that Pop, Pop, Pop?
It's one of them. I'm not sure.
I will check both.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's solid. Thank you.
And what else are you adding?
I'm going to go for next. This doesn't get me any points for cool or anything, but I'm going to go for Nothing Matters by The Last Dinner Party, which, is they're kind of the band of the moment, all girls band, and just fantastic. I've just been on holiday, and hence my flushness, and it was pretty much all we listened to, but it's just I'm a sucker for a good hook. I'm a sucker for a great refrain, and it's got a brilliant refrain in it and a great chorus that is unrepeatable. And I was on holiday with my mum, and even she was singing it, and I will fuck her like nothing matters is what it goes. Like it's such a good song, It's a really, really, but they're great. It's a really good album. It's a really good song. I don't have much to say about it. Like they're going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if they're nominated for the Mercury Prize. That they're going to be big. They'll be as big as who's the other great bands. Fuck them. Haim. They're going to be as big as Haim.
Sorry, when you were talking about all girl bands, so it was the first all girl band.
No, they were really good. Not saying that I'm sure Haim have fans. It'll come to me.
Warpaint.
They won the Mercury Prize. The band I'm thinking of.
Oh right.
That doesn't matter.
Last band I knew that won the Mercury Prize was probably Radiohead.
Really?
I don't follow the Mercury Prize at all. Never really have. But
Talvin Singh,
of course.
Absolutely.
I really rate him. I don't know.
You don't know who Talvin Singh is? I don't.
No, I don't.
I know he won the Mercury Prize, the Mercury Music Prize, as it was then. Anyway, let's not let this bit gather dust. Let's move on.
All right. So my last track that I'm going to add is by, I don't know if it's a band or an artist, but they're called Hotel Pools, and they are a synthwave act. I've been listening to lots and lots and lots of synthwave, but the problem that I have with listening to synthwave is that I tend to listen to synthwave themed playlists, and I don't tend to know who the artists are. I kind of tried to buck that trend by finding one of these albums that I really liked.
Yeah.
And the track that I'm adding is called Eclipse.
Is it on the Drive soundtrack?
It's that type of music, but no, it's no, it's like that. That's, I don't know. It's something that I really like about that genre. It all sounds exactly what you want. Yeah. It's just slight variations of it. So like,
I agree with you. It's great.
It kind of serves a great purpose for me, and I really enjoy listening to it, and I have no qualms with the fact that it all sounds very, very similar. I like that. But the album's called Fall, and the track I'm adding is called Eclipse.
Brilliant.
What's your final track?
Last one is a band called Sprints. They're from Dublin, and quite recently they released a record called Letter to Self, and it's done pretty well, and it's good. But they left a track off it, which was on their kind of like the first demo, the first EP, called How Does the Story Go? And it was on the strength of that. I just happened to see like a sort of 30-second clip of this song being played at Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh, just on a friend's Instagram reel. And it was just so intense that I became sort of like just really interested in kind of what this band were doing. And I think it's a shame that this song's not made it on the album, but it is on Spotify. So it's really good. Again, great refrain, great chorus, really, really simple, just dumbass punk. It's great. How Does the Story Go by Sprints. Yeah, I think they've just come off tour with an English teacher, and they're supporting the Pixies this summer. Wow. Yeah, no, I know. Done all right, lads.
So this playlist is called Wing Magma's Never Ending Playlist. And
sounds good.
You can find it on Spotify, and I'll put a link somewhere so people can find it.
Is this a new playlist?
This is a brand new playlist exclusive to our new edition or new series of the podcast, and we'll be adding to that every week.
God damn it.
And it will continue to grow as a never-ending playlist.
I like it.
I know, right?
So I have to say, I really loved our aperitif, and my starter was delicious.
So now to the fish course. So the deep dive we are going into this week is an album that we both agreed on this without
any
real discussions. Like, right. So if we're going to do a deep dive on an album, what's the first one? And we both picked Relationship of Command by At the Drive-In. So to read the wiki intro for this,
it's unfamiliar.
Relationship of Command is the third studio album by American post-hardcore band At the Drive-In. Released on September the 12th, 2000, the album combines an aggressive edge with a melodic drive, harmonious, emotive vocals, and surreal lyrics. While it continues in the alternative style of At the Drive-In's previous albums, Relationship of Command is seen as a more well-rounded album than its predecessors. Initially received positively by critics, the album is now seen not only as one of the most influential post-hardcore albums of the 2000s, but also as one of the most accomplished recent works in the wider rock spectrum. Relationship of Command was voted 12th out of 100 in the albums of the decade by NME, and 37th most influential album of all time by Kerrang! It was the band's final album to feature founding guitarist Jim Ward. I don't know if that final line is true, because they've done albums after this that have had Jim Ward on them.
When was that last? I mean, I'm not going to ask you to check when it was last edited. Fuck everything after this anyway.
Yeah, and before. So. My first question to you, Tin, when did you first become aware of this album?
Well, I mean, it's interesting, Lloyd, that you should ask such a question, and I would be remiss. What the hell was that? But I'd like you, if you can think back, if you can, to the innocent and hazy days of the summer of 2020. I don't know about you. I was at my parents' house, probably knuckles deep in my fifth bag of Watsits, switching between the hundreds of different music channels. I don't know where you were, but for me, the box was playing Freestyler by Bomb Funk MCs, into MTV Bass, was tearing up with fucking Dane Bowers and Victoria Beckham. UK Plays playing out some Richard Blackwood or NSYNC or something. Then you hit 440, and then you got Wheatus, and then you got 447. You're a scuzz, baby, and you're hitting the face with some Stains with a closing howl of Wait and Bleed, followed by One Step Closer. But then you take the big move, the big swig of Sunny Delight. Then there's Drive by Incubus. And could life really get any better? Could it fuck? But then 446. And it's MTV2 time. And then in the bottom left, what the hell's this? One Arm Scissor. And that was it. And I guess that was where it all started. And I don't know about you, but like I just remember hearing that song, like, and I just sort of like it just. I don't know if I want to say this is One Arm Scissor, like, and I don't know if it just was too good to be true, but I kind of almost just sort of didn't believe it when I heard it. But the weird thing about this time in my life was this was like the summer before I went to university, and it was September or something, and like everyone I knew was doing exactly the same thing, which was just fuck all, and we were just all sat around in the day, and then in the evening we'd meet up, and I remember like everyone had heard this song, and this is like like I went to school with loads of people who played in bands, and I went to school with a number of people who've gone on to sort of be kind of, relatively successful in music and so on. And this was the days, I guess, whilst I imagine versions of Napster and stuff in LimeWire existed, but they weren't on my radar. So you just waited and just in the hope that a song would come back on. And I don't remember seeing it again for such and such a long time. But I never forgot it. And for me, kind of that was just sort of the start of everything. It was just kind of like all this fucking noise of like dreadful shit new metal and boring indie. Then there was this thing I'd never heard before. The Hives were around there. They were quite good. But like
Yeah,
there's
this
nothing
was
else
something
that sort
completely
of
different, wasn't it?
been chopped in. And I just remember, yeah, that was it. And it didn't just influence me on a kind of a musical style, but like, I'll come on to that in a minute, but or later as we talk and so on. But as I say, yeah, it changed everything. I wouldn't know you, I guess, if it wasn't for At the Drive-In. What about
Yeah.
yourself?
So I can't. I remember them being on the radio. I remember hearing some of the singles, and I think I was late to the party with At the Drive-In. I think they may have already split up by the time I
This
heard
was
them.
6 months after this album came out.
Um, and I think it was 2001 when they landed on my radar. But I do remember them being talked about a lot, and I remember catching a few things on the radio and thinking, "What is that?" And it was probably the first song that I remember hearing is Invalid Department, because that was
Odd choice for a single, but
that was a single, and I just remember
yeah.
hearing it and just thinking, what is this? So they were on my radar, on the very periphery of my radar. I was slightly aware, and then I do remember very vividly the first time I heard the album. I was on a school trip. I say school, it was college, on my music tech course. And on the bus journey home from the Birmingham NEC music technology event that we had been to, Ian Humes had a
Tape. It's going to be a tape, isn't it?
it was a Sony Discman of some sort, a CD player, portable
Nice.
CD player. And he said, listen to this. And I listened to it on the bus journey home, and it was just absolutely blown away. I went out and bought it on the way home, and it was just like what I'm very glad that you've described the kind of bleak music scene at the time. And it was bleak, but like it felt bleak at the time. But looking back, there was a lot going on. I think nu metal was probably on the turn.
Yes.
But I was never hugely into nu metal anyway. Indie music that I had loved previously was dire. It was in a dire position. It was all getting very drab and dreary and frustrating. and I was willing for this band, which turned out to be At the Drive-In, to come into my life and excite me, like, because I hadn't given up on the idea that a band holding guitars can still be exciting, because at that point it was either, you know, frat bro new metal or pissy pants indie, and that there was nothing in the middle that was innovative or exciting.
I mean, I read something really interesting. I mean, this, and it's something that stuck with me for many years about this, because I hadn't really realized that Kid A came out like a really similar time to this record. And like, whilst in Kid A, I suppose we've got to consider that Radiohead were relatively young, considering, you know, the fact that that album's 25 years old now, you know, is that they were, but anyway, so the point of the article was that what Radiohead managed to do is to turn their anxieties, frustrations, and insecurities into this experimental architecture. At the Drive-In just screamed them at each other and us, and you know, and there was no tension, and there was no release, and there was no way that as a band that they could have survived, you know, everything that they created. And you know, and they went on to say that, you know, there's that therefore is kind of, you know, I suppose just kind of helps kind of understand why there was such an implosion of this band when they tried to take it on tour and so on. And there's so much written about why this could have been an arena album but never was, because the band had the capability to do it, but actually just not the kind of not the capacity, you know, to but no, it's, I don't know, like, it's, you know, yeah, it's, there was something about it that just really stuck out, wasn't there? It was, and I guess that's why we're talking about it now, all these years later.
100%. And like, it's not an album that I've gone back to a lot recently, but for the purpose of, you know, this podcast, I've listened to it a couple of times this past week. And it's been largely a pleasure, right? And I don't think I look back on this album with rose-tinted spectacles. I've always had, I feigned interest in the middle of this album and always did. And when I'm kind of listening to it objectively and writing the kind of my notes on each track, the first 5 tracks on this album are enough to carry this album to legendary status. Mm-hmm. They just are. And there are other great moments on the album, but those first 5 tracks are nothing short of incredible.
Yeah.
By any.
I would have agreed. And I mean, I do agree. And for a long time, I agreed that it really is, I suppose, kind of like so many great albums, you know, kind of, you've got a side A and side B, and you get a side A that kind of gets hammered, and you get a side B that's kind of, you know, that's because it's the flip side of the tape, you know. Like Nevermind was always like that for me when I was younger. Like, you know that, you know, you had up until Lithium, they go, oh, we've had all the hits, fuck the rest of this, you know. And it took me, you know, it took me some reflection, but also, like, actually, you know, you make a really good point, because it wasn't really until I listened back to it that I realized how familiar I was with, you know, Infidel, Rolodex Propaganda, and what's the fuck another one? Quarantined, yeah. And they sit alone, those 3 songs, and you know, and they really do. They seem to have this sort of really kind of not remotely artificial, these kind of like really organic sort of positioning together that really works really nicely. And it wasn't until reading about this I knew that Iggy Pop was the voice of you know, the voice on the answer phone at the beginning.
I didn't know that.
Really?
No, that was news to me.
Until when? Now?
Yeah, until getting back into it, and I can't remember where, but I've seen
he does the backing vocals as well on Quarantines as well, which I can't isolate. I can't hear them.
Rolodex Propaganda that he sings on.
Yeah.
It was fresh information to me that he
but you can
did
hear it now, can't
yeah,
you? Like
well,
it's
literally now, but I never knew that at the time. And there was a point where I knew that answer machine, or not the answer machine, the ransom call. I knew that word for word, and may or may not have called people at random and said, "Hello, Mother Leopard. I have your cub. You must protect her.
I wish
that
I
will
was
be
cool.
expensive.
I just used to recite jerky boys back at people.
10,000 colonels wrapped in brown paper."
It was cola nuts, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It was cola nuts. I thought it was cocoa nuts, but
Cola nuts. Midnight behind the box. I'll be the hyena. You'll see. And that's
you know it. You know.
It's just so much fun. So track by track.
Yeah.
And I think we'll kind of get into the dip and the reprieve of the album. So Ark Arsenal, for me, is one of my favorite intros to an album ever. It's like, even like there's like a maraca or something that kind of sounds like a rattlesnake for a few seconds, and then it is just in. And like, I remember I've got a clear memory of having that as a running album, and it was just like I had that on, and then all of a sudden I just started sprinting. It was just like there's just so much pent up energy, and it's just the way that it bubbles to a point with like the snare drum going and it's just, and you're in, and it is just full energy.
I mean, I have very little to add. It opens the floodgates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sets the tone of like it's fucking happening.
Yeah. It's 0 to 60.
Shit or get off, like,
yeah.
you know. And it's, you know, and what I suppose kind of like what it immediately sets this incredible tone with Cedric's vocals as well. I mean, this isn't just fucking noise. This isn't just fucking arrogant aggression. Like, it's intricate and beautiful, and just some of the vocal hooks in that, like, I mean, like, even from the dun 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 dun, I can already hear the "It's a man 1,000 faces." You know, it's just, you know where you are. It's brilliant. There's one of the, sorry, I mean, I'm horribly anecdotal, and anyone who like doesn't enjoy this, you know, you're probably not going to enjoy this podcast. But I remember chatting years and years ago to there's a band called Jet Plane Landing, and I just asked really innocently where the name came from, and they said, we put on Relationship with Command, and the opening song, Ark Arsenal, sounded like a jet plane landing. And I just thought, like, that's fucking cool.
That is really cool. I didn't know that. That is,
you know, and I mean, you get it, don't you? It's just like, anyway, you know, it's giddy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. The thought of it does. And like, I just kind of listened to the album and wrote notes because, like, and what have I written here? Statement of intent, powerful, high energy hooks with no melody, right? So it's like there's a percussive nature to what he says, and there are so many hooks that don't necessarily have a tune. It's the delivery, the passion behind it, and just phrases like beware. That's one of the hooks. Beware. I must have read 1,000 faces. There's no tune to it. Well, there kind of is, but it's more in his delivery. But then there are hooks and really poignant melodies kind of peppered around it. It's kind of like,
have you ever tasted skin and all of that, you know, like, it's, you know, like, they're timeless, you know. It's got everything. It's brilliant. Like, it's a stone cold 10 out of 10 opener.
Yes. So then we move on to
Pattern against user.
pattern against user. So I've got here hooks with little melody, strong rhythmic energy to the delivery, peppered with incredibly catchy choruses, all energy. Bassline dropout. Oh yeah, because it cuts right to just a bass line.
Yeah.
And then he gets into there's like a real sweet melody.
There's,
And this
but this,
clock keeps ticking away.
but that
Will you
happens,
watch me waiting?
and that happened. I mean, one of the things I hadn't really realized or appreciated is, because you kind of think of this album as noise. I don't know about you, but like, I mean, I do. I kind of just think of this as kind of like just kind of a big fucking slice of heavy fucking meat. But actually, there's so much intricacy on it as well. And this song's I mean, it's absolutely full of it, and lyrically, it's just wide open and beautiful. It's vicious, it's numb, it's just a great.
And there's lots of sci-fi and I don't necessarily, I couldn't tell you what their positioning is on
no
society or culture or anything like that. I don't really get
I
that.
mean,
But
if anyone actually watches this or listens to it, like we'll just get criticized to fuck. So stay away.
yeah, but and I'm sure that they do, but it's lost on me.
Yeah. But I
But
mean, the pacing between this and One Arm Scissor is also really, really good. I mean, like one of the best arguments I've ever heard in my life is a good friend of ours, John Helps, who argues courageously that in an argument I've stolen that Rumors by Fleetwood Mac is not a 10 out of 10 album because it's in the wrong order.
yeah,
And
I've heard him talk about this.
And I completely agree with him. And
I don't know what his order is.
well, I've done my own, and the Songbirds in the wrong place. Like it is. Like it's the last song on track A, on side A. And actually Go Your Own Way should probably have been the first song. But anyway, this album is not probably like this must have been such a hard album to pace. Like considering the tracks you have and the order that they come in. I mean, I genuinely believe that the thinking here must have been really challenging because you've got songs that had to go somewhere, and the pacing between. I mean, I guess they probably knew One Arm Scissor was going to be
The hit.
And it's where you put it, and that means what do you put before it and what you put after it. And I think the Pattern Against User is really well placed.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the sci-fi lyrics, there's a line about send probes through time portals, something's with landfills, we mortals, or something like just in terms of imagery.
Yeah,
that is thematic throughout. But yeah, let's not muck about. Let's get to One Arm Scissor. The first thing that I've written about One Arm Scissor, and I don't know how accurate this is, but post-hardcore smells like Teen Spirit. Would you
I've
agree
never
or
heard
disagree?
it, mate.
What? One Arm Scissor?
Is it good?
It's all right.
Is it? Is
we
it
just
good?
move on? I remember Chris Bergin giving me One Arm Scissor as a ringtone on like
he made it. Had he done it himself?
I think he did. I think he wrote the polyphonic ringtone, and it was note perfect. Like every single phrase of the entire song, it was perfect.
Because he did Newborn by Muse for me as well.
All right, amazing.
It's just like I just know how much fucking time do you have?
But like, I seem to remember like him kind of sending it to me as a file, and we might have been in Mosh, and he was like, "Listen," but like I kind of listened to the whole thing. It was just like, "All right, this isn't just did it as a ringtone, as a polyphonic ringtone. It was the whole 4-minute song."
That's
like,
incredible.
It was pretty special, but
I mean, yeah, but I suppose where do you begin with this? I mean, we could talk about Robbie Williams.
So this is I think what I'd like to start talking about their live performances, because like
Yeah.
I do remember before, if we had a PRE gig in the evening, I would spend a good amount of time during the day swatting up on at the drive-in live videos, which weren't easy to find in the PRE days. This is pre-YouTube, so you'd had to go on
It wasn't
LimeWire.
pre-YouTube. It was probably pre.
It
Was
was
it
pre-YouTube.
pre-YouTube?
Well, it was pre-Google buying YouTube for sure. And it certainly, yeah, 2004, 2005, we
Wow.
would have been, that would have been our pocket for being very influenced by At the Drive-In.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean not just us. I mean
Yeah.
everyone we played with.
But yeah, but just seeing them performing and just how passion outweighs precision for me in those types of performances, like the Jules Holland performance, like where Robbie Williams has to play afterwards, is just incredible. And if you watch One Arm Scissor, then I think, oh, what is his song?
Rock DJ.
It's just like, how do you perform anything after seeing that? And
Yeah.
Omar breaks his
He had
guitar and just starts playing a maraca, but it's just the energy. The energy is overwhelming
yeah.
on their stuff, and it led to probably the most disappointing live show I've ever seen. Is when I saw them live. They played at Leeds and Reading in 2012, and there was just none of that. There was, well, Omar, sorry, Cedric, the vocalist, he put in a shift, but everybody else was just not there. And it's just like, At the Drive-In playing without that passion,
What's the fucking point?
what is the point? And it was just like, wow, to kind of have that image of them, and then after everything, what is it, 10, 12 years later, they get back together and they've lost all of that energy.
It was the same year that Refused announced they were reforming as well. And it was the same. It was just shit, like.
But yeah, it was the importance of passion,
the urgency
in performance was something that I was very influenced by.
But that was, I suppose, that was the thing about kind of the thing about that kind of period of time. There was this sort of like, there was this kind of urgency and this immediacy that when this album came out, like it had to direct somewhere. Like they were broke up as a band. Like Sparta were formed 6 months after Relationship with Command came out, and within a year, they were writing Mars Volta, writing Deloused, and there's nowhere else for it to go. And there's no point trying to replicate that 12 years on, because that was something completely organic. And maybe that's something we'll talk about later on, about like how we link these episodes. But I agree with you completely. Like I saw, I think I was at Leeds. I think I was at Leeds. Did you go to Reading?
No, I went to Leeds.
Right. Oh, did I go with you?
I met up with Jay. I didn't know you were there.
I need to check.
I know the Cribs were on
I like the
before
Cribs,
and that was the first time I'd heard the Cribs.
Yeah.
And was blown away by them. And
I think they're really good.
They are good.
Really good. I've always liked them.
Off the back of seeing that, I went and downloaded like 5 of their albums, and I could put 5 albums on shuffle and enjoy everything within.
I was watching something like just a reel a couple of days ago, and Joe Talbot was talking about how like they are one of the best British bands of all time. And like I do agree, and I don't know why because I think they started with Johnny Marr was in the lineup, and that kind of gave them the sort of like credibility. But actually, their songs have just got better. But anyway, we're not talking about the Cribs.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, I mean, like, One Arm Scissor, absolute revolutionary song.
Yeah.
Can't think of a single song that is just kind of had created such a right turn. Like, for me personally, it's just like, right, there was before One Arm Scissor, and then there was after One Arm Scissor.
Yeah, no, I know. And this is what I was talking about earlier, like, and I will shut up, but like when I heard it at the same time as like all my fucking teenager friends, and we were all kind of like, oh my god, you hear that? Oh, it's amazing. Here in Northern Ireland's class. Let's start a punk band. Oh my god, that's a good idea. And so we all did, and and we spent the next 10 years just being shit versions of it. So well, yep. 25 years. But it's brilliant. Never lets up.
So then that between One Arm Scissor and Sleepwalk Capsules, there is like this little passage of just soundscapey sci-fi-ness, which is like just sonically, you do need a rest after that. And I'm always grateful for that little passage. And there's just lots of little bleeps. Do you think they did
it for us?
I don't know if they did it for you and I. However, I'm still grateful for it.
The listen. I mean, I'm imagining that you and I represent the listenership.
Yeah, I think like it was. I don't know. It's just like
it's been a lot.
You get a few moments of just what was that?
A sonic back rub.
Yeah, a sonic deep bath, and then you're on. So then Sleepwalk Capsules is still high energy, hooks, syncopated guitar riffs, not as arguably as good as any of the tracks before it, but it still has the ingredients that
the rest of the album does. Joe, favorite,
the album that precedes it, it still has those ingredients which start to go missing later on.
My favorite riff on this album is it's 2 minutes 9 on this, and it's the wow 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 on this. I don't know why. I just fucking love it. Yeah. So maybe it's not my favorite, but it is great. Like, so
it is good. So I've got here Faulty Tower as one of their hooks. I'm pretty sure that's what he says.
Like John Cleese.
I think so. I'm pretty sure that's what he's.
You invaded Poland.
Jim Ward call and response. So there's whatever rapping Cedric's doing, and then is it like pacifier pacifies? Yes, it pacifies. Or like there's just this call and response between them, which just builds such.
I should really read the lyrics.
I kind of don't want to.
Because I've kind of made my mind up on what they say.
It's just like, if I don't like, do you know what I mean? It exists in a space in my head, and I quite like that. Lazarus through the party, Lazarus through the fight.
Flames, surely.
Huh?
Flames, surely. Lazarus through the flames, no?
Lazarus through the party. Lazarus through the fight.
Flames. Wow, we are so off on this.
Who's correct?
I mean,
in the comment section.
Perhaps neither of us. But the whole kind of concept of Lazarus, like Lazarus being somebody who came back to life, you know, fuck it, I don't know. Let's not get theological. It's too late for that.
And then I've got that one of the last hooks. Like, I'm pretty sure he says "confess" at the end. Confess, confess. But I used to think he said. Used to think he said "kick ass."
Kick ass. Bro, it's Jack Black.
I think he says confess. So then what I would
Invalid
say,
letter department,
which concludes not the album. I could switch off after this album, after this track, but like the lyrics here, I have got the lyrics just because like whatever he's talking about, and I'm sure again there is some sort of cultural statement that he is making. I have no idea what he's talking
I
about.
do. They were about a series of murders in El Paso that were happening at the time, and they were growing up.
This
There
rings
was,
a
I'm not
bell.
saying a serial killer, but like there was murder. There were a number of murders happened in a certain area. That's
That's
apparently what they were talking about.
this is starting to ring like, and there's a video where they're kind of walking through, I'm assuming it's El Paso.
Were they dancing on corpses' ashes?
I think they might have been, yeah.
Right.
They could have been.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a huge amount to say about this. I remember just thinking it was a really odd choice for a single, but like it's just
No, I don't think it's odd. It's got hooks, it's
I mean, I
more
said, I mean,
somber and
I was a child when I thought this. I'm now a grown man with feelings and metro tiles. So
my last comment is it's like a poetry reading. It's like
beat poet.
to this day I don't know what he's talking about.
And that's fine.
But there is just again
The vocals at the end are just fucking brilliant though, aren't they?
Yeah. But yeah, so for me, those first 5 tracks, by anybody's reckoning, it's just like, it's almost like, how can you maintain that energy for an entire album?
Wow.
I don't. Yeah, and that it starts to dip for me after that. Not completely to the floor. But it goes from a 10 to a 6 for me.
Oh wow, I wouldn't go that. I wouldn't go that low. I mean, I think there's peaks and troughs. I think that like Mannequin, Infidel, Rolodex, Quarantined, I think that they've all got a great place on the album. But I think they're I just think they're really well placed where they are, which is why I made the comment about track listing, because I think they're really good. And like, I sent you a text prior to doing this in that like I was slightly uncomfortable with the idea of going track by track, because actually I get a little bit muddy at this point in the album, not because I don't see these songs as individual kind of like pieces of art or music or whatever. It's just I struggle to tell them apart. Like,
but that's kind of,
you know,
almost my point. They do start to become at this, and it's at this point that they do.
But I know them.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was driving to Newcastle now, I would enjoy them as much as I would enjoy Pattern Against User. Not that I'm going to drive to Newcastle now, but say I needed to.
If
in
you
my
needed
bare
some
feet.
milk, if you needed a pepper, and you had to go
Wait, you're the one that made the decision to move away from somewhere you can buy a pepper freely. I could buy a pepper right now.
I'm happy for you.
You can enjoy your fajitas.
I'll just have
with no pepper.
Wrap. So Mannequin Republic is the next track after Invalid Lit Department, and this track always marked the turn of the tide in the album for me. The mood shifts here. It gets heavier, less peppering with hooks.
You love some peppering, don't you?
Yeah, I do say that a bit too often. But to a lesser extent, more angular and discordant, less accessible than the previous 5 tracks. I put, what is the hook in Mannequin Republic?
I need to hear it because I can't remember which one it is.
Dun, 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 dun. I know it's that one, but I can't think of the hook, which is almost my point.
I'm really embarrassed at the minute that we're listening to this seminal album, and I can't tell
But
you what
that's my
it is.
point. It for me, it dips.
Yeah.
It just dips. So then is it Enfilade? Enfilade?
Yeah,
So that's the ransom note read by Iggy Pop. Fresh information to me. Faux drum and bass, and the drum sound, it puts me off. The song
really.
kicks in and it gets good.
How are you going to give this 10 out of 10 if you're talking
No,
so
I'm
much?
not giving this a 10 out of 10 at all.
This album,
No, I'm not giving this a 10 out of 10. I don't think this is a far from flawless album. But we'll get to that debate at the end. Stay tuned for our rating of this album. It's going to be a hot take.
do you know, my notes are featuring Iggy Pop, also featuring Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I don't know why I thought that would help me.
So I've got oh, there's like a little accordion riff.
Yeah.
I think it's an accordion.
Yeah.
This is like what? Like
We're proud Texans, man.
freight coming, freight train coming.
That's good. I like that.
I've had to write down the hooks because to remind me of where we're at in this. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know what.
Which song are we on?
Enfilade.
Right.
So then it goes into
Rolodex
propaganda, temperature, which is, and like I didn't know it was Iggy Pop, and it doesn't make me feel any better that it is. But the manuscript replica, it still sounds silly. The delivery of a manuscript replica. It's not for me.
Right. God, I thought you were fully like
this album is important to me.
For this album.
This album is important to me. It's a fantastic album. It's not wall-to-wall bangers for me.
Wow.
It just isn't.
No. I mean, I'm interested because I agree, but I was prepared to be maneuvered into, I don't know, like.
Well, this is the debate. I'm sure that
discomfort, not discomfort necessarily, but like, you know.
But
I thought you were going to talk me around and then just nip in the ear and whisper.
I wouldn't say I'm an At the Drive-In fan. I love this album. I intensely love parts of this album. This album will always be very important to me. Albums before, not so much. Albums after, not so much.
Not at all.
So
here we are.
Quarantined. So Quarantined, I think, is a good song.
I agree.
And there's a live version that I saw of this, which I think I prefer to the album version, but only because there was an energy to it being performed live. But like I think your comment about track listing, if this song came after the first 5, I think it would actually continue the pace, or certainly the spirit of the album better. And I hadn't really considered that until you mentioned it. But if I was able to reorganize these songs, that's where I would put it.
Be there with them.
Say that again.
If you were there, being there in the studio with them and say, "Hey lads, I know you've got 7 weeks, but I've got some notes and they're important. Here we go. First off, who's had lunch?" I think that Quarantine is I've always liked this song because it's always been a bit grungy for me. It always reminded me of Rooster by Alice in Chains because it starts with rain and like this kind of atmosphere and so on. And I've always quite liked that. And I love, there's a line in it somewhere like have trigger will travel, which, you know, I just think is a great line. I mean, I don't know whether I'm kind of comparing it to Rooster by Alice in Chains, thinking, oh, it's about war and stuff. But like, I don't know. It just, the way, the setting in Civil War by Guns N' Roses, like where you just kind of, yeah, I'm in.
Yep.
Like it sort of sets the tone where you're just kind of like, I care.
Yeah,
Whatever story you're telling, I'm into it. And
that's certainly where I'm at. I've written here, brings back my attention after a lull in the album.
right.
So I'm with you on Quarantined. Next track is Cosmonaut. Back with the energy. Great
Is there
stomping
anything
rhythm.
heavier than air? Tell me it's a boxcar lying, the brass knuckles for the hissy fit. Brilliant.
So as I was re-listening to this, it reminded me of, and I don't know, you probably know this, but if you didn't, I'm here to tell you. There was a PRE track that we used to have called Greenback, and
Me?
yeah, like with you, Spencer, it was
I
called
know.
Greenback,
I know. I was in the band.
but we changed it. We kind of reorganized Greenback to become the Centurion.
Yes.
And the Centurion is what appears on our album. But the reason why we changed it is because we had a shit chorus and we needed a better chorus. And I took the rhythm from Cosmonaut and added a couple of chords. And then we had a great chorus. So I just took that.
Is this the first time you're airing this?
I don't think I sort of said, guys, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to nick this bit from At the Drive-In, but I did. And then brought that to the band. It's like, oh, yeah, that works really well. And we can plug in and then we can go back to the verse and we can crack on. And that's what we did. And it shifted and it became a half decent song after that.
Do you remember what the chorus was?
Yes, I do. There was...
That's probably all the time.
It was a dueling guitar line between me and Spencer, kind of going dee doo dee doo dee doo dee dee doo dee doo dee doo, and the hook was green black blood covers you, green black blood covers you.
That is shit.
Yeah, but I do
Well
remember
done.
that.
I mean, we can talk a little bit more about ripping off At the Drive-In
In a couple of tracks' time. So then it's non-zero possibility, and I've put here slight foreshadowing of Mars Volta. Discordant guitar and piano line, haunting octave melody / backing vocal. Let's just paint you a pretty face in 2 tear ducts. They still eat their young. Yes, yeah, okay. I remember this now. Like I'm just trying to remember what the song is. Jim Ward backing vocal, counter melodies. It grows against.
I didn't know it was Jim Ward that did the backing vocals, by the way.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I always thought it was Omar Rodriguez that did them, but
so based on their live stuff, he does the kind of shouty bits.
Right. I mean,
so
good on you.
Cut away in One Arm Scissor, Sand Transmission from the One Arm Scissor, cut away. That the cutaway parts are Jim Ward.
Is that on the album? I've not heard it.
Shut up. So then Catacombs is
who wrote it first? You or them?
It's the embodiment of my naivety as a songwriter. I heard that, and because this album, I thought this album was really underground. Only a couple of my mates know about it. It's not really being talked about in
mainstream media.
And this is the last track in the album, and because there's such a lull in the middle, no one's going to get to the end of this album. And I just loved that riff, and I thought, I'll take it.
This one, I think honestly, Louis, you're being modest. We got past the first Gates, we had a song with this as a riff, didn't we?
Yeah, 100%. It's on Spotify. You can find it.
And we submitted it to the then At the Drive-In influenced Million Dead's record label, who were interested in it. I'd asked if we had more.
I didn't know that.
Integrity Records, yeah, they said, "Oh, you really like this? Do you have anything else?" Don't tell me. There's no way you didn't know this.
I can't imagine that would have been information you would have withheld.
No.
But, I don't remember that their label.
They didn't pick up on it. I don't think it sounded that much like it was.
Oh, it does.
It's your version. Your version is much more of a major interpretation of this. I mean, don't get me wrong.
But it is. It's
quite a lot.
It's that, like, it's 100% that riff. And there's more in that song that I would have nicked if I would have listened
and I got away with
at the time. Yeah, I think it's fantastic song, great riff.
Is it your favorite riff on the album?
I would go as far as to say that.
Same.
As a riff, I think, yeah, it's, and because of, like, yes, I 100% confess to ripping that off, but I don't know how, like that song at the time for PRE, it was a turning point. It was like, all right, we've got a song with a hook, with a chorus. People started to like it outside of our circle of friends.
Yeah. For anyone who's listening to this who doesn't know who Lloyd or I are, PRE was a band that we were both in that were heavily influenced by At the Drive-In.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Mentioned
and I'm like going back, like songs like Blanco, which is on the album. That's very influenced by.
I mean, you could almost place it on top of it, like,
yeah.
Oh,
like, I don't know, like that's I don't know.
But this is now we're talking about the influence that this band have had on us.
Yeah,
and I think that it's fair to say that we've not just been influenced and affected by this band, but we've also been, I don't know, like, I mean, we've been kind of, it was more than that. Like, it was more than an influence, wasn't it? It was, what's what I'm looking for? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, they certainly
inspired. We were inspired, not just influenced, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
And like, look at the way we all dressed.
Yeah.
Could our t-shirts have been any fucking tighter?
Yeah, it was, and exactly. In terms of
not just us. I mean, like, Meet Me in St. Louis and Blackfish and like all those other bands.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that undercurrent of, at the time, what was alternative to the dross that we were listening to on the radio, Jet, and I don't know who else was around, but like
the Bloodhound Gang.
There was just, all of a sudden, there was a band that I was, or certainly an album, because like the band were non-existent.
There was the Thrills.
Oh, I actually quite like the Thrills album, but anyway, but
I just think of bands that were around then.
But yeah, they were.
U2.
At the Drive-In were a shot in the arm at a time when I was very susceptible to such. Yeah. What you were saying earlier about Kid A, I remember really anticipating Kid A to be, off the back of OK Computer. I assumed that Kid A would be something darker, but a way to progress guitar music. And then that wasn't what they delivered. And I like the fact that At the Drive-In and Radiohead are in the same kind of conversation, because for me, they really filled, At the Drive-In and Relationship of Command filled a void for me and not just filled it, it just blew up whatever chasm that was into something unrecognizable thereafter. And it echoed through everything that I was playing, and aspired to be like. I wanted that energy. I wanted to be a part of that energy. I'm not saying that I wanted just to rewrite their songs or anything like that.
No, but
which I tried to do
that's
in
the
some
effect of
cases.
youth. I mean, like, don't be hard on yourself.
No, I think like
who didn't do that?
It goes through my filter, but that I couldn't have been any more honest about that.
Yeah. No, but
It
like
was a huge part.
I think we've all done it.
Songwriting.
I've sat down and tried to write lyrics like blah blah. I've sat down and tried to write guitar music like such and such. We all do it. Yeah. I've sat down and at my grand piano, and I've thought, I need to write music like
November Rain.
Like who?
November Rain.
I need a grand piano to write this on.
Yeah.
Nothing else will do. And so I had one flown in, a grand piano.
I swear there was another track at the end.
I think there is.
Like there was a UK edition. And I was like, I swear there was another track at the end. I didn't like it and always skipped it, but it wasn't on the Spotify version I listened to.
Oh, Call Me Al.
What?
Call Me Al. It's got a great bass solo.
Is that the end of Relationship of Command?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a sax only version. Yeah, I think we've got there.
So what would you rate this album out of 10?
How are we doing ratings in terms of thumbs ups?
How many thumbs out of 10 thumbs would you give it?
Lloyd, I'm going to struggle to give this any less than 9 thumbs.
It's an 8 for me.
8 thumbs.
It's 8. It's an 8 for me. And because it's not an album that I can enjoy from start to finish.
See, I can enjoy it from start to finish. I just don't have the same passion for it in the second half.
Yeah,
but I still really like
but
it.
that's the thing. I don't dislike the songs. It's almost there because they're not as good as the first 5. They suffer. I don't know. Like,
I think that I don't know, man. Like it's when you're listening to it, I don't notice the gap. Like I've been listening to this and it's fluid and I love them and I forget how well I know them. But we made the point earlier that like I can't fucking tell them apart. Like the latter sort of 5, 5, 6 actually. So you make a good point, but I think that's maybe just because we've become incredibly familiar and all the singles like Arc Arsenal, One Arm Scissor, Invalid Letter, they were all the singles and they're all quite early on. Maybe that's why, I don't know. But yeah, 9 thumbs up for me.
So we get an aggregate score of 8.5.
That's not a bad score
for the first album on our new podcast.
Podcat.
So Tiernan alluded to it earlier. We wanted to have a silver thread that goes through the albums that we review. So the next album that we're going to review is D-Louse in the Comatorium by the Mars Volta. The Mars Volta, for those that don't know, were the best 2 from At the Drive-In, span off and created a completely different band, which also had a huge influence on me. And that album is one of my favorites of all time. D-Louse in the Comatorium. There were the rest of the band also splintered off and created Sparta, which had very little resonance in my life. However, I don't want to disregard it completely. It just didn't. I was very excited by the Mars Volta and what they were doing, and again, they opened up other corridors in my mind with that album. So that would certainly be the one that I would like to talk about next.
So would I.
Cool.
And that's helpful that we agree on this.
Awesome. So thank you all for listening this far. If you've made it, well done. We will be back very, very soon with our deep dive on Deloused in the Comatorium by the Mars Volta. If you're a fan of this type of thing, please come and follow us on Instagram at Wing Magma, YouTube at Wing Magma, Spotify, and all of your other friendly podcasting platforms.
No, thanks everyone for listening. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for enduring and facilitating, Lloyd. I don't care about the viewers.
You're always a pleasure to me.
Thanks. My beard's a little bit creepy, isn't it? No. I'm afraid to shave it because I've just been on holiday and I'm worried they're going to be white behind it.
That was the last thing I thought was creepy.
What was the first?
I'm just not your beard.
Yeah. In Casino Out.
Oh, that was I didn't like that album.
No, me neither. That was my sign off.
All right. But I'm just saying, I'm going to have fun editing. Take care of yourselves and each other.